Jeff Collins, the man who's ruining life for Hutterites all across the world. Or at least that's what the main Hutterites would want you to believe. Jeff, good morning, my man.
Thanks for making my day.
No problem.
Ruining lives. Yes, that's what I've been accused of.
You are a life ruiner. You're not just ruining lives, but a way of life, in fact. I mean, really, I don't know what you're doing. What's crazy is we had this argument probably 10 minutes ago, obviously before you were with us, with my producer here. I didn't think anybody... I was just so on your side here and thought the Hutterites were just kind of like, or the Hutterites were way out there. And my producer kind of agrees with them, though, and thinks that maybe you have done some stuff. So there's a legitimate argument here. Let's start off from the beginning.
I love it. Let's go for it. Roll up your sleeves.
Exactly. I'm ready to do this.
I'm ready for you.
How'd the show... First of all, what's your background? Before American Colony, Meet the Hutterites, which is a brilliant show, by the way. I've seen every episode, and I'm loving it. What was your background? What do you do? What have you done?
You know, it's varied. I've been a storyteller for a long time. I started out in journalism, and I moved over to entertainment news. Entertainment Tonight was my very first job in television, and I did that, and I worked for the E! Channel. And then I went on to create a number of big, successful, non-scripted shows from, talk shows like Lisa, back in the day. You're probably too young to remember that. And Billy the Exterminator, Bridezillas, Dance Moms is one of my big franchises.
Oh, love some Dance Moms.
And then I do shows for the National Geographic Channel. I do documentaries. So we kind of, at this company, we have a very wide range of things. But the one thing that's consistent in all of my shows is that what fascinates me, because I grew up in a very, very conservative religious background, and deep down inside there's a part of me that's still, a bit prudish and conservative. Is that anytime I get a chance to peel back the curtain and look at how other people live and the value system that they choose and how they raise their families, I'm in.
Agreed. I mean, that's why...
Because I've been judged my whole life, and I grew up in a very, very conservative, religious, evangelical, strict family. And I think those roots that I was raised with are part of what, give me a moral compass today. And I do feel like, I'm glad for that. I mean, some people may not consider me to be, be following the same tenets that I was raised with, but I know the difference between right and wrong and how to treat people.
Exactly. But you went from...
And I don't cheat and lie and steal, and, I'm a good person.
That's good. That's good. I kind of like the, I know where you're coming from, where you've got this background and people judge you based on your background and stuff, and I think that it really makes... It's the same thing for me here. Like, I do kind of a controversial radio show here. We get in trouble a lot, and I love that. I was raised Mormon, and so it's like, and I'm born and raised here in Billings. It's a local boy here, local show, but I was raised, kind of the same way you were, just a conservative, Mormon obviously is different than how you were raised, but I mean, just conservative, and you don't swear, and you don't drink caffeine, and, now I'm pounding coffees and calling everybody a douchebag. So times have changed for me, but I also enjoy seeing other people's lives. I'm a huge documentary watcher. I love documentaries, and that translates over into these reality type shows. Like, I just love getting a glimpse into other people's lives, and not just American Colony even, but the what's that other show on Nat Geo now? The Gypsies. They have a couple of shows that are very successful about the Amish, but they're all about people who've left the Amish. And what was interesting about our show is that this is the very first time anybody's been inside the Hutterite world, and they were, it took a long time to convince them to let us do this. And I kept saying to them, you realize that your elders and that the people the other Hutterites in the other Hutterite communities are going to be very upset with you. And they said, yes, we know. And I said, well, why do you want to do this? And they said, well, we want people to see that we're not a cult, we're not inbred, we have problems just like everybody else does. But the main thing that we hope people walk away with is that we never throw anyone out. In other words, like, can you imagine if you lived with 59 of your family members, like, within footsteps of each other? You'd be killing each other. Oh, yeah. I would. I live across town from my family, and I want to kill them. I mean,
I know.
I totally.
So they do. So you take that. Just begin with that dynamic alone, and you have all these family members. There's 59 of them live there. Almost all are related somehow or another. They're from a.
Let's pause right there, real quickly here. I want to get into this. Do you believe that they're not inbred? I mean, because really,
no, I know they're not inbred. They're not.
How?
Because this is why. Because the tradition is that the boys and girls meet at other functions. So in other words, when there's a funeral or a wedding, it usually lasts for days or a week. So entire colonies will go to other colonies because the women, all came from other colonies because that's their tradition. As a boy, you go to a wedding at another colony and you meet a girl and you go, oh, I like her, and then you start courting and texting and calling, and then you make plans to go back and date, and it's all very strict. You're not allowed to be alone. And then at a certain point, and they don't get married quickly, which is counterintuitive to what you would think. You would think that they would be encouraging them to, get married at 19 and start pumping out babies.
Like the Gypsies.
They don't do that.
I mean, on the same network here, that American Gypsies show, like they marry at 16-ish, right around 16, and they don't meet their spouse before they get married. They just, the elders choose people, put them together, and say, you're getting married. I mean,
yeah, these people are completely the opposite, not just about marriage, but about religion. Because I was baptized, I mean, you grew up Mormon, I grew up evangelical. I was baptized because I was pressured to be baptized at like 8 years old, but I didn't really know what it meant. Yep. It just meant that if I didn't do it, everybody was like judging me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they encourage them not to get baptized until they know exactly what they're doing, and they have to go and ask permission. And the older people literally will decide, you know what? No, you're too much of a wild ass. Like you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
You're not serious. And so they have to wait. Wesley, who's one of the guys in the show that's a main character, is 28 years old, and he's getting baptized like as we speak, because they want them to understand that that getting baptized is like a marriage, because you're making a commitment and it's a lifelong commitment. And if you don't understand what it means and you're not totally sure about it, don't do it.
I love it. I mean, here's the thing, and now I'm jumping to the end of the argument, but here's where I want to just say that I think you have done nothing wrong. Obviously, you haven't done anything wrong, but the whole point of the show that they're saying, we wanted you to do a factual documentary, and instead you're making us look like a bunch of kooky weirdos. It's like, I haven't seen the finale yet, but essentially the whole season of the show that I've watched so far, what I take away from it is like, oh wow, they're totally, it's exactly what you said they wanted everybody to see. That's what I take away from it. I'm like, I learned about their religion, which is totally basic Christianity, that's going back hundreds of years. It's not anything weird. That anybody can walk away from the colony anytime they want to. You're not like held there. I'm learning about the way they, get into relationships. They're fairly normal. It's like everything that I've watched on the show is good. It's like, and then of course there's drama and stuff, but I'm like, yeah, it's a television show. Like I need to be drawn in to continue watching it, but I never, honestly, all I knew about Hutterites before this, I called them Hutterites for one, and all I knew is they have a horrible reputation of being thieves up here in Billings.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like well known, that they say like they'll walk into a Walmart and stick a TV between their legs under their dresses and walk out, like that high of level of thievery, that they're thieves, that they don't talk a lot, and that they're good at cooking and stuff and selling it at the farmer's market. Like that's all I knew, and that they were weird, and that's just that was from my ignorance. It's like I don't know enough about them.
And that's why they wanted to do the show, was because they despise that. They are hurt by the fact that that's, look, there's a bad apple in every, on every tree. Like maybe somebody did steal a television. I didn't get the sense from them at all, and I literally was there practically living with them for 8 months, and I still talk to them on a weekly basis. If you follow me on Twitter, Jeff Collins and TV, you will see so much hate tweets, and you know what? They all come from other Hutterites, mostly in Canada, and I think the reason is because the elders up there want people to believe that their life is like a Norman Rockwell painting, that the kids all run around and they're happy and no one does anything and everything is perfect and they don't have any problems. And the fact that these people were willing to pull back the curtain and go, no, we do have problems. And yes, we do question whether or not some of the things that we're told that we have to do Are those in the Bible, or are those man-made rules? Like, for example, the controversy that the women are going through right now over the kids being educated, okay?
Yeah.
Even with the pressure that they got, and they've been shunned, and they were willing to put it on TV and say to these elders, no, we are not taking our kids out of school. You can do whatever you want to us. You can punish us however you want. We are drawing a line in the sand. We are putting our kids through school.
Which
You're going to have to change.
Which,
elders,
as a fan watching the show, gives me so much respect for the King Colony. I mean, it's like
it does me too, and it breaks my heart that they've been so beaten up by the other Hutterites. Who, I guess it hits too close to home, and it really, anytime you question or you're perceived to be questioning your faith, it's very upsetting to other people in that faith. But when you watch the show, we never go near religion, never. And when you got to meet them, they never once questioned their religion. They never once questioned their belief in God. As a matter of fact, making the show made them even more resolute in their belief in God and their belief in their system of family and the way that they live. But they do question tradition, and they do want to be able to still survive. And surviving means that they have to embrace the modern world, and they do use technology, and they do need to be educated. I mean, come on, we're in the age of technology.
Yeah,
Once you have a computer in your hand, the world is not a secret anymore.
Exactly. I mean, there was that part of the episode or this season when Wesley started, because Wesley's college educated, and he's starting to, transfer all their documents onto the computer, and he's shredding all the old paper, and they kind of freak out. It's like, that's a good kind of example of times changing. I mean, even on something that small, it's an example of like, whoa, we've done everything the same way for so long, and it's Wesley kind of portraying the new age, he and Claudia and Bertha with her support, like they kind of are saying, you know what, like we're still Hutterites, we still love, our culture and what's going on here, but there's certain little things that we need to change and get with the times.
Exactly. And Wesley was a big experiment. Wesley was allowed to go to college as an experiment because the elders have always feared, and they want to pull the kids out of school in the 8th grade and put them to work on the farm.
Which is ridiculous. Because essentially here, what they're saying is like, if you learn any religion, to me, is flawed. If one of the rules of the religion is you've got to stop learning outside information, because if you learn too much, you might question us. It's like every religion should be allowed, and you should be encouraged to question it, because if it can't stand up to questions, it's obviously not right.
And you know what? And that's what Wesley said in a statement back to the elders. When they were coming out and saying, oh, you didn't make a factual documentary, and this does not portray our religion, and you've disparaged, all these things that were negative, they were all aimed at me, which were really just a way of deflecting the real conversation here. Is like, well, why can't the kids be educated? Well, why can't they have computers and smartphones? Well, why can't they watch television, like everybody else? Because they do anyway. And it's not just the people on King Colony. I visited lots of colonies. They're all adapting to the rules. And back to Wesley. Wesley was an experiment because they really believed that getting a college education would cause the kids to leave the colony. Okay, and Wesley has 2 degrees. Wesley is a paralegal, and he has a degree in some kind of agricultural management, farming, something or other. Straight A student. The guy went to college online, like literally Billings, the University of Billings, I think it is, watching classes online, and still maintained all of his chores like straight A student, 2 degrees, and he could not be more excited about being a Hutterite lifelong. I mean, he wants to grow up to be a leader. He is a leader. He's an example. Mm-hmm. And he's the guy, I'm telling you, he's smarter than I am. I mean, Wesley, you can talk to Wesley about anything. And he wrote this statement, which is online, which is one of the most beautifully written documents I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, that guy's smarter than I am.
Yeah,
he has no desire to leave the colony. He has no desire to leave his lifestyle behind. He wants to be a Hutterite. He wants to continue his traditions, but he wants to help his people be able to compete economically.
Which is so, I mean, and that's the thing that what I don't understand about the elders. It's like they're obviously struggling. I mean, King Colony can't be the only colony that's struggling financially. I mean, they're trying to get those beds cranked out. You know, they're making sure they don't lose cows. It's like, it seems like they're not sitting on, you know, it's not like if you go to their bank account, I'm guessing they're sitting on, you know, a few $1 million. It's like they're getting by selling their wares. They're getting by essentially marketing themselves as a business. And
well, and you guys all know there in Montana, you had a rough year last year, and it looks like, you know, I'm sorry to say, you've got another rough year coming up.
Oh, thanks a lot. No, I'm kidding.
For the farmers, but it's, you know, I talk to them all the time, and they're worried.
Exactly.
You know, about the crops, about the cattle, about all the weather. You know, they depend on the weather to help them. The only thing that they have that is a constant source of income is the dairy. You know, and you guys had a pretty crappy year last year with the not enough rain, and it's not looking good this year. So you're right. They do struggle. And, you know, how convenient it is for the Canadians to criticize them because, you know, they have national health care up there, so they don't have to pay for insurance and all these things. And they have a different economic system than we do, which is a stronger economy. And, you know, they have a different tax base than we do. So I find it very interesting that that the Canadians are, you know, so tough on these people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're just good people. I mean, they're some of the kindest, most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. I'm still friends with them. I talk to them on a daily basis.
Are any of the people within King Colony upset with you, or is it just the elders? Or I mean,
no, it's just the elders.
Okay, so those people are good. Here's my other question. This is when my producer and I were kind of arguing about it a little bit. He thinks, you know how he keeps saying, you know, you came in and told them you wanted to do an educational documentary, and what they got was the hills. And
no,
so,
they didn't. That's not true.
And he's saying that he thinks some of the stuff on the show is stuff that you set up. Like he thinks that you encouraged them to do certain things, or that we did. We encouraged them to help us tell their story. Is what we did, because there's no way that we would have been able to tell those stories. And look, as far as making an observational documentary is what he's referring to, trust me, no one's life is 10 hours. There's no one's life who's interesting enough to play 10 hours of it on television.
You haven't met me yet.
Yeah, he thinks he's interesting.
Well, no one is. We encourage them to be our co-producers and to go, what areas can we explore? What are the traditions that we can question? What are the things that you guys question on a daily basis? Mm-hmm. And you know what? There were things that we wanted to explore that were going on, and they said, no, that's off limits, and that's inappropriate. Like, for example, you'll notice we never really talk about religion. We don't go inside their church. We don't see their minister on camera because they didn't feel that was appropriate, and so we said, okay, fine.
Yeah, I love it. You're respectful to their story.
They were the ones who drew the lines and said, this is what's inbounds, this is what's out of bounds.
So, like, for example, in tomorrow night's spoiler alert, in tomorrow night's season finale, there is a barn burning, literally, and my producer is pretty sure that you guys burned the barn down for television.
Well, that's not true.
Okay.
First of all, why would you let me burn a barn down for television?
Exactly. McLovin, will you answer that question? If you're going to say something that dumb, and he's going to say that that's not true, you explain why you think that they would allow him to burn down their 100-some-year-old barn.
Well, no, that they didn't let him. They just did it when no one was looking.
Oh,
so it was
don't you think
arson.
They would have been pretty upset with me if we'd burned down one of their barns?
Yeah.
Like on purpose for television? I think they would have been pretty upset.
Yeah, I think you have a point there.
Okay, so other than that...
I think the question is, was it a barn, was it a shack? I don't know. It was a structure.
Yeah, but something burned down. All right.
Something burned down that was actually there.
Okay, right on. Well, Jeff, we've got to wrap up there. We're a little late here, but long story short, you should call in some other time. When you're doing another show, keep us on your list. We'd love to talk to you about any of your shows. We'll be your Montana connection. But Jeff Collins, the producer of American Colony, Meet the Hutterites on Nat Geo. Fantastic show. If you haven't watched it yet, you're missing out. Check it out. Jeff, you're great. And you're gone.
The Big J Show. Weekday mornings from 6 till 10 on Billings #1 hit music station, Hot 101.9.